Hey guys, Mono here, and in this video, I'll show you guys how to build proper defenses in Helados. This is something that I see a lot of blueberries get wrong in public matches. They will build structures in the wrong locations, or they will build the wrong type of structure. Like, for example, they will start building barricades or bunkers before there's any actual barbed wire blocking the enemy from actually getting to the point and stuff like that. And there's also several misconceptions which apply, I'm going to say, to most of the player base in terms of what you actually do to defend the point in which you've built defensive structures. It's not just sitting on the strong point and waiting for the enemy to get to you. I will elaborate more on that later. But before we get started, if you want to catch me live playing Helados or playing other games, then make sure you follow me on Twitch. The link for that will be down in the video description. And also check out my podcast, which I'm doing together with Pterodactyl and Rasbora. It's a very fun podcast where we talk about games we've been playing, movies, life in general, and just have a good time overall. So definitely give that a try. Check that out. It's available on Spotify. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, pretty much everywhere you can listen to a podcast. And the link for that is also down in the video description. All right, now let's start talking about how to defend the point. And first thing I want to mention is that you should build close to the HQ and not on the other side of the map. Ideally, you want to secure the position that's either the middle point or the second point from your side, and not like the fourth or fifth spot, because driving the supply truck is going to take way longer the further away the point is from your headquarters, right? You have to drive the supply truck, drop the two boxes, then drive all the way back to HQ to resupply, and that loop is just going to take a lot more time the further away the point is from the headquarters. So ideally, when you're looking at the defensive position that you want to create, this is, specifically, I guess, for offensive mode, but it also works in warfare. But if you're looking at where you want to set up and where you want to make your last stand as a team, then pick a point that's either the last or the second to last point on your side of the map. Now, when you're dropping the supply boxes with the supply truck, those boxes are pretty huge and they take a lot of space. So think about where you're going to drop them. Don't just drop them in the middle of the road in the same path you're actually using to drive around, because that's just going to make dropping further supplies later on much harder. You're just going to have to zigzag around your own boxes of supplies as they get used for building bunkers and barbed wire and stuff. But yeah, keep in mind that you want to do multiple loops. Ideally, what you want to do is do the least amount of maneuvers possible. So you just want to keep W pressed and, loop, just turn around the point, drop the supplies, and go back the way you came in. You don't want to be hitting reverse and doing all sorts of complicated maneuvers that can get your truck stuck or will just take longer in general. All right, so once you've dropped your supplies, the first thing you want to do is build a manpower node. This will allow any support players nearby, including those obviously in your own squad, to resupply their supply box in 2 minutes instead of 5. This is crucial to make sure you can always build supplies and you always have supplies ready for whatever it is that you need to patch up, because the structures you build will get destroyed eventually. Somebody is going to run up with a satchel and is going to blow up a hole in your defenses. It will happen. You have to be prepared for that. You have to be ready with more supplies to be able to patch those holes as they crop up. This is something that almost every team fails to do. They just build a lot of structures, and then when those structures start going down, they never really patch them back in and build the structures back. So that is something that you can only do if you have a surplus of supplies. So another point is, don't use every single supply box you have. You want to keep some supplies lying around in case you have to build a garrison because it got destroyed in a bombing run. That's priority number 1. But you also want to keep some supplies in case something gets blown up by a satchel charge. The first structure that you want to build is barbed wire. You want to make sure you block as many paths to the objective, to the point you're defending, as humanly possible. So you want to start from the outside in, creating a perimeter using barbed wire to block access, physical access by enemy soldiers into the point. Don't build barricades, don't build bunkers, don't build anything before that barbed wire layer is secure around the point. And keep in mind that whatever room you have to build structures is going to be defined by that barbed wire perimeter around the point. That's going to keep the enemy off the point, but it's also going to keep you trapped inside of it. So think about that and think about how that affects your ability to defend the point, right? And the only way to actually defend is to have some garrisons around the point as well, not just inside the strong point, but have them around the perimeter on the outside of the defenses to harass any enemies that might get close to those defenses and might threaten them with a satchel charge or with like driving a tank straight up to the point or something like that. The footage you're seeing, we built all of these defenses and yet we failed to defend the point because the team was just stuck inside the strong point and nobody was really helping defend outside the strong point. So you have to have a good mix of people inside the strong point defending outwards and a couple of squads patrolling the perimeter. And I do mean patrolling the perimeter. If you're 250 meters, 400 meters away from the point, you are not defending it. You are just engaging somewhere else, but you're not defending the point. And we actually lost a match recently because most of the team was off containing the enemy that was coming in from the north, while one or two guys put a satchel in, destroyed the defenses, destroyed the garrison, and the point was lost in a minute. Remember, if you're playing offensive, it takes 1 minute to cap. That is basically one spawn wave on that garrison, and that is it. So if you take your sights off the strong point for a few seconds and you lost it, then the point is lost and there's no turning back. And all of your defenses are worth nothing if there's not people around those defenses. All right, now let's talk about the structures you actually want to build. I said you want to build a perimeter of barbed wire first. Behind that perimeter, you want to build something that will keep their tanks away. Either Belgian gates, which are really convenient, or hedgehogs, or barricades. You can use the walls from the barricade to prevent the tanks from being able to push in. However, if you're going to use barricades, that blocks your line of sight. It's not like the Belgian gates or the hedgehogs. So don't build the barricades right up against the barbed wire because that's just going to provide some cover for whoever wants to run up to that barbed wire and put a satchel on it. The barricade is going to hide them and it's going to make you unable to shoot at them. So if you're going to use barricades, build the barricades further back, or ideally, in front of the barbed wire on the enemy side, on the outside of the perimeter. However, I did say build the barbed wire first, and that's because you don't know how much time you have to build the defenses. So the first thing you want to do is enclose everything in the barbed wire and then start building other things, all right? Positioning bunkers can be a bit tricky because more often than not, you don't want them in direct line of sight or of whatever it is that you're blocking. Say, for example, you're blocking a bridge or a street. Don't put a bunker right at the end of the street because that's just going to make it very easy for a tank or a sniper to always have a good shot on that bunker. So build them off to the side at an angle so you're catching the enemy that's coming off the street at an angle, right, from the bunker. That's going to be just as good, and it's going to give you a bit more cover and a bit less time for the enemy to be able to aim at you inside of it. Speaking of bunkers, you can build a garrison inside the German bunkers. You build a stage 1 bunker, then you build the garrison, and then you complete that bunker structure. So definitely do that if you're defending as the Germans, and if you're a allied that's attacking the point, you want to either rocket or shoot a tank shell or do whatever you can to those bunkers just in case they have a garrison inside of them. They can be destroyed with a bombing run if the bombing run hits just right in like the door of the bunker, but it's not super reliable. So yeah, definitely try and get some shots into those bunkers, if you have line of sight and you're playing allied. And obviously as German, try and keep them off the line of sight and build additional structures around them so you can defend it even more. And lastly, if you're gonna have a tank sit down on a point and defend it, then definitely build a couple of repair stations. Yes, build more than one because they do stack, so just build a lot of them if you can. Ideally not blocking major roads or major mobility points for the trucks or the tanks. But yeah, just build a couple of repair stations next to the tank or close to it. Talk to the tank player, see where he wants the repair stations built, but he should have repair stations at the point where he is basically sitting down on. Alright, and that's going to be it for this video. If you have any suggestions or comments, please leave them down below in the comment section. Please check out the links down in the video description. And as always, thank you for watching, and I hope I will catch you in the next one.